Now I think I have started. Right. So I'm going to share the screen with the PPT. Yeah. Okay, here we go. So phrases, unit 11. These phrases, first and foremost, let us understand what phrases are. They are an important part in the structural organization of language. So they occupy an intermediary space between words and clauses in the hierarchical organization that constitutes the structural framework in which languages operate. They are like every structural component, be it buildings or language, phrases have their own internal organization and have their pre-assigned roles and places in the structure of sentences. So phrases are basically a group of words that function together as a unit. They lack a subject or a finite word. Now phrases can express a concept, a description, a modifier, or an action. Building blocks. So phrases are essentially building blocks in sentence construction. Now you can even substitute the same kind of a word for a phrase. Now to understand the phrase and the head word, once you kind of know which is the head word and substitute according to that word class, that will help you to figure out the phrase. So a single word can replace an entire phrase. For example, the phrase, the big red ball can be replaced with the word it. Okay, and nominal, like a noun phrase can substitute another noun phrase. Instead of the cat that chased the mouse, use the chaser, right? And pronouns can be used to substitute phrases referring to people, places, or things. For instance, the tall man with the blue hat can be replaced with he. Right. Now looking at the categories of phrases. Now, basically, as I told you already, they are like a bunch of words put together. Now, another important fact is they are not random bunch of words, but words selected on grammatical principles. Okay, so the choice of words is an important aspect of understanding phrases. That is how to make uh, grammatical phrases. Of course, they are fragmentary in that they do not constitute complete sentences but form part of sentences. That is very important. Okay, though they are fragmentary, but they form a part of sentences. Now, these phrases, just like the words, have their grammatical categories specified. So that is just like the words in language are classified as nouns, verbs, prepositions, etc. Phrases are also classified into grammatical categories. Please remember, we have the grammatical categories for phrases also, just like the words. Because we have noun phrase, adjective phrase, adverbial phrase, verb phrase, prepositional phrase, among others. The grammatical category of phrase is determined the grammatical category of the head word in the phrase. Okay, now for the word, looking at the word, the morphological structure, we can tell that to which class it belongs. But when it comes to a phrase, it is mostly the head word which suggests the grammatical category of that phrase. Okay, the head word, let me just discuss it in the next slide. So first looking at the categories here, noun phrases are group of words that function as nouns in a sentence. Right? They take up the task of working as a noun in a sentence. Verb phrase contains the verb and its auxiliary indicating actions or states of being. Now, adjective phrases modify nouns and provide more information about them. Adverbial phrases modify verbs, adjectives, or other adverbs providing additional details. Here we go into the head of a phrase. What is this head of a phrase? As I told you, the head is a basic word which determines the category, grammatical category of a sentence, right? So the head of a phrase is the core word that gives the phrase its meaning. It is often the most important word in the phrase. The head can be a noun, verb, adjective, or adverb. So in a noun phrase, the head is the noun. In a verb phrase, the head is the verb. In an adjective phrase, the head is the adjective, and in an adverb phrase, the head is the adverb. Right. So in linguistics, if you look at it, the head of a phrase is the central word. I mean, without which you will find the meaning irrelevant and without any meaning to it. So first and foremost, you need to identify the head of a phrase. Phrases are nothing but a group of words. So how do you identify the head? Right? So it is the central word that determines the type and function of the entire phrase. Phrases modify or complement the head. So, for example, the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy duck. So here it is a noun phrase, right? So look at this. The quick brown fox. Head of the noun phrase is fox, right? So the quick brown fox. So the fox is the noun over there, and that is the head of the entire group of words. Why? Because the rest of the words, whether it is a determiner or an adjective, all these are describing that particular word, and that is called a head word. So in the noun phrases, the quick brown fox, the word fox is the head of the phrase. It is the main noun that the entire phrase is about. So the other words, the quick brown are modifiers. So they are called as modifiers that describe or provide additional information about the fox. Now look at another example. She will be arriving soon. And this is a verb phrase. So how do we arrive at this kind of a conclusion? That is, for example, will be arriving. Okay. So here arriving. Let me just give you an explanation. In the verb phrase, will be arriving. The word arriving is the head of the phrase. It is the main verb that the entire phrase centers around, while will and be are auxiliary verbs that modify the main verb. Right. Now let us quickly look into the noun phrase, its function, and its structure, the basic structure. Okay. So the noun phrase, what is its function? It functions as a subject, at times as an object, or a complement within a sentence, and it typically refers to a person, place, thing, or idea. Right? That's the function. So look at the structure. A noun phrase consists of a head noun, the core of the phrase, and optional modifiers. So these are optional modifiers, which may or may not be with the modifier. Sometimes the structure of a noun phrase can also come up as a single noun. Right. So the modifiers can be determiners, adjectives, or other nouns. Now, what is the basic structure? If you look at it, the example is the big dog, right? So here it's a the is an article which is a determiner, big adjective, and dog, right? So the entire structure is a noun phrase. Now I call it noun phrase because dog is the head word, right? If I remove this dog, it hardly makes any sense. So the big, right? So you can quickly figure out the head word, which actually uh, the core word of the entire sentence. Now coming to another example, the tall building. So it's all about the building. If you look at the sentence, you will understand something is being spoken and described about one particular building, right? So the determiner is the, and the adjective is tall. And the core word or the head word is the building, which is a noun, hence it's a noun phrase. Right. Coming to the adjective phrase, where we are going to talk about its structure and its function. So when we talk about the function, adjective phrases, they modify or describe the noun or a pronoun. It provides more detail about the noun or pronoun. It modifies. So if you look at the structure, An adjective phrase generally consists of an adjective, that is the main part, and may include other modifiers such as adverbs. Right? Now, for example, here we take extremely happy. Right? So when I say extremely happy, that is adjective and the adverb. Okay, and next we have this very kind. Okay, adjective being very, and it's also a modifier. Very is the modifier, right? Next, we have the adverbial phrase. If you look at the function of an adverbial phrase, which modifies a verb, an adjective, or another adverb, it provides information about how, when, where, or to what extent an action is performed. If you look at the structure, an adverbial phrase typically includes an adverb and may have additional modifiers like prepositional phrases or adjectives. So basic structure, if you look at, it will be like um, an adverb plus an adverb, or at times with the, it comes in the form of a prepositional phrase. Uh, Another example is quite slowly. Okay, here that is the adverb which talks about slowly, and quite again modifies the adverb, both being the adverb. Now coming to the prepositional phrase, which begins with a preposition and typically indicates location, direction, time, or other relationships between elements in the sentence. It can act as an adverbial or an adjectival phrase. A prepositional phrase consists of a preposition and its object, usually a noun phrase, and optionally modified. So the basic structure, if you look at it, a prepositional phrase, it has a preposition plus a noun phrase. So for example, on, which is a preposition, the table, on the table, like, and then under the bed, the preposition being under, and the noun phrase, the bed. Now verb phrase. Verb phrase is the part of the sentence that expresses action or state of being. It includes the main verb and any auxiliary helping verbs that accompany it. So when I talk about the structure, a verb phrase consists of a main verb and then optionally one or more auxiliary verbs like have, is, will, etc. And may also include objects, complements, or adverbial phrases. That is the core structure of the verb phrase. Now the basic structure, if you look at it, for example, is running. That's an example. So it's an auxiliary verb plus the main verb is running. Then we have ate pizza. In this phrase, you will have main verb and an object or a complement. Then we have has been working. So you have auxiliary verbs, two auxiliary verbs here, and the main verb work. Right. So this I think we've already done as in the form of an example. So sometimes, as I told you, there are a single word phrases too. They are short and concise. They consist of a single word acting as a noun or a pronoun. These phrases often function as subjects, objects, or complements in a sentence. Now, for example, words like dog, car, love, or time, these words carry meanings and can stand alone as a complete phrase. While most single word phrases are nouns, they can also be adjectives, adverbs, or verbs in certain ways. Okay, this is what we have just learned about the structure and of role and structure of a sentence. As I told you, they are the building blocks of sentences, phrases, and they are group of words which convey specific meaning. Whereas in the form of a subject, the person or thing performing the action, verb, the action being performed, object, the person or the thing receiving the action, and the modifier, such as words or phrases that provide more information. Now, these roles allow phrases to create a coherent structure for conveying thoughts and ideas. Now, these phrases play a crucial role in the structure of a sentence by adding detail, clarity, and richness to the basic subject-verb-object framework. They can function as different parts of speech, such as nouns, verbs, adjectives, or adverbs, to provide additional information about the action, subject, or object in the sentence. Like, for example, we have the original sentence: the cat under the table is sleeping soundly. So let us quickly break down these phrases. One is the noun phrase, another one is the prepositional phrase, and the third one is the verb phrase. So then we have three different types of phrases here. So if you look at it, the cat under the table, that's the noun phrase, right? The cat. Okay, you can simply take it as the cat. This phrase includes the noun cat, and it's also followed by the prepositional phrase under the
It's
table,
important.
which modifies cat by specifying which cat is being referred to. Right, prepositional phrase again under the table. This prepositional phrase functions within the noun phrase to provide more information about the location of the cat. And when you talk about this verb phrase, is sleeping soundly, this phrase includes the auxiliary verb is and the main verb is sleeping, with the adverb soundly modifying the verb to describe how the cat is sleeping. So in the sentence, if you look at it, the entire sentence, the noun phrase, the cat under the table serves as a subject, while the verb phrase is sleeping soundly serves as a predicate. So the prepositional phrase under the table gives additional information about the noun, and together these phrases build a complete and detailed sentence that conveys a clear picture of what is happening. Right. So if you look at the internal structure of phrases, how are they constructed? As I already told you, any phrase for that matter has a head. Head is what dictates the class of that word, whether it is a noun or a noun phrase or a verb phrase, etc. Right? So then the head of a phrase is the central word that determines the phrase's type. It's the main element that the other words modify or expand upon. Now, what are modifiers? The modifiers provide additional information about the head word. They can be adjectives, adverbs, prepositional phrases, or even other phrases, and at times they are determiners also. So now this is how a tree diagram of these phrases look like. So if you look at the sentence, you have a noun phrase and a verb phrase. If you look at it, colorless green idea sleeps furiously. That is the first sentence. And next also there is a noun phrase and there is a verb phrase. For example, the first one, let us look into it. So what is a tree diagram basically? Now how do you understand it? It's a visually represents the grammatical structure of a sentence. It shows the hierarchical relationship between words and phrases. Now that's what the words are kind of, they are connected together to form this kind of phrase, isn't it? So the top of the tree is the root, which is the main verb or a sentence. The branches show the words or phrases that modify the root, and the leaves are the individual words. So, for example, the first one, the entire sentence, you're looking at sentence, you're not looking at it as a phrase. Now, S is the mother node, the top node, S is the mother node, and these the other ones which are branching out as noun phrase and the verb phrase are called daughter nodes. And then noun phrase and verb phrase become sister nodes, right? They are the daughter nodes of the mother node S, and they are both, when you compare them, they are the relationship between these two phrases are sister nodes. Okay, so now sentence is actually having two phrases, that is noun phrase and a verb phrase. Now if you look at the noun phrase, just the noun phrase, that is colorless green ideas. Okay, so what is this? Um, then sleep furiously, right? Okay. Now ideas is the noun in the noun phrase if you can look at it. That's the adjective followed by preceded by the adjective colorless green. And ideas is the noun there, and hence it's the noun phrase. So if you keep on branching out till the single word, it is how it's going to come. If you don't want to branch it out, you can simply draw a triangle below NP, just a small triangle, and mention it as the sentence as such. Just put down the sentence as color with green ideas. It doesn't need further division. So just a triangle with this statement doesn't need any explanation if you put an NP on the top. Next, verb phrase. You can see the verb sleep, then the adverb curiously. The words put together is the verb. Right? So then moving on to the next sentence again, you have both the phrases, noun phrase and the verb phrase in this sentence. See, if you look at the noun phrase, it is the determiner, and that's the noun. The man will hit the ball. The man will hit the ball. See, there are two noun phrases in this sentence. Okay? The man, the ball. Will hit is a verb. Okay? So, if you divide it further, this is how it goes. The is a determiner, man is a noun, then will is an auxiliary verb, hit is a verb, then the is again a determiner, and ball is a noun. Now, the ball is a noun phrase. You can see NP on top. Will hit is a verb phrase. You can see it as a verb. And then the man is a noun phrase. Right. And here we have a few more examples in a very with a small example. So the big dog, and this is a noun phrase. Why? Because dog is a noun there in this sentence, right? That is the head word. So this is a noun phrase. The noun phrase consists of a noun as the head and its modifier. So what are the modifiers in this example? The and big, right? So these are the, we call them as determiners and modifiers, modifiers. So they are modifying this noun dog. And so noun phrase further divided. The article is the determiner there, and noun is the dog. This is the noun phrase. Now let us quickly look at the structure. The tree diagram. Please remember, we are looking into the tree diagram of a phrase. Before the slide, we were looking into the entire sentence actually. Sentence with 2 to 3 phrases in it. But now, just the phrase and its structure as a tree diagram we are looking into it. So for example, very beautiful. This is an adjective phrase, consists of an adjective as the head word and any modifier. So look at this. Very beautiful. That's an adjective phrase. What is this very talking about? Something which is an adjective, beautiful. Hence it's an adjectival phrase or an adjective phrase. Now moving on to the next one. This is an adverbial phrase. Okay? So quite slowly. An adverb phrase consists of an adverb as in head word and any modifier. So here if you can look at it, both are adverbs here. It's an adverbial phrase and the modifier is also an adverbial phrase. Okay? So it's quite slowly. How slowly? That's an adverb, hence it's an adverbial phrase. Quite is also an adverb, but the main word is slowly. So what kind of this is? It's quite slowly. Right. Moving on to another phrase, that is the verb phrase, which consists of a verb as in head and its arguments such as object or modifier. For example, a sentence, phrase I have taken as has been singing. Okay. So here, has been, these are the two auxiliary verbs. Has been and verb is singing. So it's a verb phrase. So if I just pull out these, has been, singing is the head word. I cannot remove this head word, hence it's a verb phrase. Coming on to the prepositional phrase. On the table, on, under the bed, in the bag. So you see a preposition, and a prepositional phrase consists of a preposition and its object, which is often a noun phrase. So most of the time, prepositional phrase is followed by a noun phrase actually. So that usually that will be an object for this preposition. And if you look at this prepositional phrase, you have a preposition on the table, right? On is a preposition. The table is a noun phrase. Right. So these are some of the basic tree structures that show the relationships between components within the phrase. Each phrase has a head, the main word, and optional modifiers or complements that expand on the meaning. Okay, this is again another example of a tree diagram. This is the entire sentence again, not a phrase. So if you look at this first sentence, it has two phrases. And next diagram, if you look at this, also has two phrases with the auxiliary verb, both in first and second. You can see that. The first one, let me just look into it. John can, okay, please remember, John stands as a noun, but it is a noun phrase there. I already spoke to you about the single word phrases. Hence, John being a noun phrase, can an auxiliary, be is the verb here under verb phrase, and then the happy there. Okay? Then you have the next one, a child can kick a football. So a being an article, noun, auxiliary, can, verb is the kick, article again, then the noun as a football. Right. Okay, coming to the adjunct. What is an adjunct? So an adjunct is any adverb or an adverbial clause, adverbial phrase, or a preposition phrase that gives you more information primarily about the action in the sentence. However, it can also qualify as another adjective, an adverb, or even a complement. For example, the teachers were asked to wear the uniform sari every Monday. Right? The little boy ran quickly on seeing the dog. We have planned to visit our grandparents next month. So, kind of, you can see those highlighted words where they form like an adjunct to it. Okay, so adjuncts are phrases that add extra information. Okay, and to a sentence such as time, place, or manner. So, if you can see, the teachers were asked to wear the uniform sari every Monday. Okay, every Monday. How did the boy run? Quickly. When did you plan to visit your grandparents? Next month. So these are kind of additional information to a sentence such as time, place, or manner, and they provide context and making the meaning clearer. And they also modify verbs, adjectives, or other adverbs, providing more detail about the action or quality. Then they enhance understanding. They help the reader to understand the context of the sentence, making it more vivid and engaging. Right. Now we come to block 5. Now in phrases also, you have lot more examples. I want you all to look into page number 183 for the tree diagrams. So 183 of your textbook has a lot of uh, mm, phrases which where you have to draw the tree diagram. So the new 183 phrase, I'll just read it out. The new directors of the company, that is one phrase. Her legal hair, a senior advocate. Okay, these are all noun phrases. Please remember. The fame of the family, that's also a noun phrase. A week, right? A noun phrase. Their disproportionate assets in Singapore, and yes, that is also a noun phrase. A long chain with small coins, that's also a noun phrase, a very alarming insight. So these all you have to draw a tree diagram to understand the various, you know, determiners, or you have the adjectives. And now, for example, let me just quickly give you a few listing explanations of. Now, for example, her legal heir. So her is a determiner, right? The entire thing is a noun phrase. or legal air. Legal is an adjective, okay, and air is a noun, or legal air, okay, and then we have a senior advocate. Is a determiner. A senior is an adjective, advocate is a noun, okay. Then we have the fame of the family. The is what? Determiner. Fame is noun. Of preposition. The is a determiner. Then we have family as the noun. Right? This is how you have to draw a diagram, tree diagram. It is easy for you to define each and every part of that phrase. Right? Then we have covered the phrases also, the structure and functions of all these phrases. And then moving on to the fifth block, that is about the sentences, right? And we have unit 13 as simple sentences, okay, and 14 as compound and complex sentences. Then the 15th unit talks about the questions, right? So let us quickly look into what simple sentences are. So next session would be our last session. Okay, next class will be on Saturday, if I remember, right? That will be the last session. So simple sentence is a type of sentence that consists of just one independent clause. Okay, and an independent clause has a subject and a predicate. And please remember, this is the difference between a phrase and a clause. Yes, a clause has a verb, right? Whereas a phrase doesn't have a verb. So an independent clause has a subject and a predicate and expresses. Now clause here is nothing but a sentence. Please take it as this way. Either you can call it as a clause or a sentence. A sentence has a subject and a predicate and expresses a complete thought. Simple sentences are the most basic type of sentences and do not contain any subordinate clauses. For example, now let us quickly discuss the features also of the simple sentences. Now it has a subject, who or what the sentence is about, and a predicate, what the subject does or is. And there is no subordinate clause. What do you mean by a subordinate clause? A clause that depends on an independent clause is called a subordinate clause. A simple sentence doesn't contain dependent clause or phrases that cannot stand alone. So simple sentence is basically a sentence that can stand on its own and it's an independent form. It's an independent clause, right? So for example, if you look at it, she runs. That's an independent sentence. And it's a simple sentence, right? You have a subject, you have a verb also there. The subject is she and the predicate is runs. So let us quickly break it up into subject, verb, and the context. That is understanding the meaning of a clause. Clause or nothing but a sentence, right? So the subject is the person, place, or thing that the clause is about. Identifying the subject is the first step in understanding the meaning of a clause. Then the verb describes the action or state of being in the clause. Analyzing the verb helps reveal the relationship between the subject and the respective clause. Considering the context. The meaning of a clause is influenced by the words, phrases, and ideas that surround it. Examining the broader context is crucial for fully grasping its significance. Right. So please remember that every clause must contain a verb, even if it consists of nothing else. Right? So that makes it a clause. So that's in fact a rule of thumb to know how many clauses are there in a sentence is to count the total number of verbs on that sentence. So each verb represents a clause. So if a sentence has three verbs, that indicates that the sentence has three clauses. Now, if it has two verbs, then two clauses, and so on. So these are some of the components of a clause. What all does it have? A, a subject, right? Um, See, sometimes a clause may have just the verb. Okay? Okay. So a clause is a group of words that contains at least a subject and a verb. Clauses can be categorized or independent or dependent based on whether they can stand alone or as a complete thought, or they need some kind of a dependent clause, right, or some support. So let's break down the components of a clause. Subject. The subject of a clause is the noun, noun phrase, or pronoun that performs the action or is being described in the sentence. It answers the question who or what is doing the action or being in the state described by the verb. So, for example, in the clause, she sings. She is the subject there, right? And the other component is predicate. Okay, so the predicate contains the verb and tells what the subject does or what happens to the subject. It expresses the action or state of being of the subject. Now the same thing I can explain with the previous example also. She thinks she is the subject and since is the predicate, isn't it? That tells what she is doing actually. So next, another example for the predicate. In the clause she thinks since is the verb or the predicate. Right. Next is object. Object can be optional. The object receives the action of the verb, right? And sometimes you may find or may not find that's an option. Complement again. A complement provides additional information about the subject or object. That is also an option. But basically you find subject and predicate, right? And then an adverbial. That's also an option, which provides extra details like when, where, or how something has happened. Now sometimes this is also like an adjunct. Can you please turn off your mute your mic, ma? Over it is. Right. When you talk about the object, direct or indirect, an object is a noun or a noun phrase that receives the action of the verb. Not all clauses have an object. I just now told you this can be an optional, but many do, especially when the verb is a transitive verb. So when the verb is transitive, it needs an object. Only then you will find an object, which requires an object. So direct object receives the action directly from the verb. For example, she kicked the ball. So the ball is the direct object and the verb is a transitive verb. In such cases, we need an object. Whereas uh, indirect object, the recipient of the direct object. For example, she gave him a gift. Him is the indirect object. A gift is the direct object. The complement again, as I told you, this is also an option which provides more information about the subject or object of the clause. It can be an adjective, it can be a noun or a noun phrase that completes the meaning of the word. Subject complement describes or identifies the subject, typically with linking verbs like be. For example, he is a teacher. So a teacher is a subject complement describing he. So what is he? He is a teacher. That's a kind of a complement for the subject. Now object complement describes or modifies the direct object. They elected him president. So president is the object complement describing him. So they elected him as president. Uh, Mr. Sudhir, I can see you. I think it's like you please mute yourself. Kindly mute yourself. Can you please close the mic? Right. Now coming to the next slide, adverbial. An adverbial modifies the verb and provides information about how, when, where, or to what extent an action occurs. Adverbials can be adverbs, prepositions, phrases, or clauses. For example, she runs fast. Fast is an adverbial modifying run. Right? So she is the subject there, the verb runs, and it is describing in what way. So it's a modifying adverbial. Right. So as I told you, types of clauses, they can be independent and dependent. So when you talk about this, the clauses, when I speak about independent clauses, they can stand alone as a complete sentence. It has a subject and a verb and expresses a complete thought. When I say dependent clause, it cannot stand alone as a sentence. It relies on an independent clause to complete its meaning and expresses a full thought. Now, as just like the phrases, you also find clauses like the noun clauses and adjective clauses and the adverbial clauses and so on. So coming to what is a finite dependent clause? So a finite dependent clause contains a word that is conjugated to show tense, number and person, and it has a clear subject and verb. And it typically begins with a subordinate conjunction like because, if, although. So if you look at the characteristics of a finite verb, it contains a conjugated verb, finite verb, expresses a complete thought that still depends on an independent clause to complete its meaning. Example here, she stayed home because it was raining. So finite dependent clause is because it was raining, right? And in this sentence, because it was raining is a dependent clause, it provides extra information about why she stayed home, but it can't stand alone as a complete sentence. Now coming to the non-finite dependent clause. A non-finite dependent clause contains a verb that is not conjugated. Non-finite verbs do not show tense or agree with the subject in person and number. These verbs are often in the base form, infinitive form, or participle form. They contain a if you look at the characteristics of a non-finite clause, contains a non-finite verb, either an infinitive, gerund, or participle, lacks a clear subject, verb, argument, or tense, cannot stand alone and needs an independent clause to give it meaning. For example, I went to the park to get some fresh air, right? So here, the verb get is an infinitive verb, to get, right? So that is whenever it's preceded by to, it's an infinitive. So in this case, to get some fresh air provides the purpose for going to the park. It cannot function as a complete sentence by itself because it lacks tense and a clear subject verb agreement. Right. Coming to the conjunction. So what are conjunctions? Conjunctions are nothing but they are connecting words, right? Now just now I told you the sentences may be simple sentence or can be dependent or an independent. So if the dependent sentence, if it has to, uh, you know, combine with an independent sentence, it needs some connectors, right? They are called as conjunctions. Okay. Now these conjunctions are words that connect words, phrases or clauses within a sentence. Now the types of conjunctions. There are three main types of conjunctions, that is coordinating, subordinating and correlative conjunctions. What are coordinating conjunctions? These connect words, phrases or clauses of equal grammatical rank such as and, but and or. That is, most of the time simple sentences are connected, right? Or a compound sentence where both are independent, where you have the both independent clauses. If at all need to be connected, we use this coordinating conjunction. What are subordinating conjunctions? These connect a dependent clause to an independent clause. So one can be on its own, one cannot be on its own. Such two clauses can be connected using the subordinate conjunction. And for example, because, although, while, and many more. Right. Now, subordinators connect dependent clauses to independent clauses, whereas coordinators connect words, phrases, and clauses of equal grammatical rank. Okay, I think I'll stop the session here. Uh, I will start with the. Okay, I just want to give you some information about types of sentences. I did mention it, but I think I haven't given some detailed explanation about this. Simple, compound, complex, and compound complex. Whereas in your textbook, I think we are discussing only three, that is simple, complex, and compound. Right? So simple sentence, these sentences contain a single independent clause with the subject and the verb, and which expresses one complete thought in a clear, straightforward manner. Whereas the compound sentence, two or more independent clauses allowing writers to convey multiple related ideas. They are connected by coordinating conjunctions. Whereas a complex sentence has one dependent and one independent clause. And compound complexes at least two independent clauses and one or more dependent clauses. It has. Right. So I think I'll start with the questions part tomorrow. But before that, maybe a little bit of more information can be given on how to form compound sentences and how to form complex sentences. So with this, I will start my next day, the next session, which is going to be on a Saturday, next Saturday. Right. With this, I conclude my session. If you have any doubts, you can ask me right away. I hope you all understood. And I also would suggest that you go through the text material. Only then I'm sure this will be very clear. You'll get a clear picture about whatever I'm teaching in the class. So you all don't have any doubts?
No, ma'am.
Yeah, got it. So, but make sure you just read it and come for the next class.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Another interesting thing about your book is it is quite exhaustive. There are a lot many examples which I couldn't take it up on my slides here. So I request you all to go through those examples once again. Every page has beautiful examples given in the book.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, yeah.